Hey guys, in this lesson we're going to be taking a look at finding the volume of spheres. So to start off with, a sphere is a set of points that are the same distance in all directions from a point called the center. So if we're looking at this picture right here, the center would be right there, and we would be looking at all these points on the outside would all be the same distance from that center. And the way you would measure that distance is using a radius. So spheres also have a radius, they also have a diameter. So from one edge of the sphere to the other would be the diameter. And both of these values have to be either go through for the diameter or be connected to for the radius through what's called the great circle. The great circle is the circle that goes through the center of the sphere. It's also the biggest circle in the sphere, and its radius is going to be used in calculating the volume. So this right here, that's the great circle. So if we're looking at calculating the volume of a sphere, volume is going to be equal to 4/3 times pi r squared, pi r cubed. Because it's volume and this is the only one that we have to, the only measurement we have to work with, that makes that be cubed. So we're looking at 4/3 pi r cubed, where that right there is our radius. So if we start trying some of these out. First problem, solve for the volume, round the answer to the nearest hundredth. So looking at the first sphere, it asks us to find volume. So from the definition, volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So we find our radius, which in this case is 7. So volume is going to be equal to 4/3. And with these, we want to use 3.14 for pi. So I'll replace pi with 3.14 times the radius, which is 7 cubed. So if we put that into the calculator, I'm going to put the 4/3 in parentheses, so 4/3 times 3.14 times, and I'm going to put the 7 to the third. I'm going to put the 7 in parentheses to the third. And that'll give us a volume of 1,436 and it says round to the nearest hundredth, so 0.3, and our units here are going to be yards cubed because we're working with volume. So looking at the next example, volume is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. So volume is going to be equal to 4/3 times 3.14 times 9.9 cubed. And if you put that in your calculator and calculate it out, you're going to get a volume of 4,062.32, and in this case we're looking at feet cubed. They could also give you spheres where they don't give you the radius and they give you a diameter instead. All you're going to need to do is use that radius is equal to diameter divided by 2 formula, and that'll give you the radius. So radius is going to be equal to 26 divided by 2. So our radius is going to be equal to 13. So if we find the volume, volume is going to be equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. Volume is going to be equal to 4/3 times 3.14, and our radius we found to be 13 cubed. And if you put that in your calculator and multiply it all out, the volume is going to be equal to 9,198.11 meters cubed. And looking at the next example, asking us to find volume. So volume is going to be equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. Volume is going to be equal to 4/3 times 3.14 times the radius. Well, looking at the value they give us right here, that's the diameter. So to get the radius, you take the diameter, divide it by 2. So radius is going to be equal to 21.6 divided by 2. And that's going to give you 10.8. So plug in 10.8 here, cube it. So volume is going to be equal to 5,273.99 millimeters cubed. So that's how, either given a diameter or a radius, you can find the volume of a sphere. They could also give you the volume of a sphere and ask you to calculate volumes. So given the volume, solve for the radius, use 3.14 for pi, and we want to round our answer to the nearest hundredth. So looking at this one, they say we're using volume to solve for radius, and we have a sphere. So the formula that we have that uses volume and radius is the 4/3 pi r cubed. And in this case, our volume is 124,724.99 is going to be equal to 4/3 times 3.14 times radius cubed. So if we divide both sides by 4/3, that's going to leave us with 93,543.74 is going to be equal to 3.14 r cubed is what's left over. We want the r cubed all by itself, so divide both sides by the 3.14, which leaves us with 29,791 is going to be equal to r cubed. So we're not interested in what r cubed is, we want to know what just the radius is. So the way you take the cubed root, in this calculator it's under math, you see how it's got the cubed root right there, cubed root, and then 29,791, and that's going to give us a radius of 31, and the units on this problem are millimeters. Make sure you're trying these the cube root out on your calculator and make sure you get it to work, and if you have trouble making it work, let me know and I'll help you. So one more. It's asking us to find the radius. So volume is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. Our volume is going to be 54,334.04 is going to be equal to 4/3 times 3.14 radius cubed. So divide both sides by 4/3. So 54,334.04 divided by, notice I'm going to put the 4/3 in parentheses in the calculator. That way it tells the calculator take this number and divide it by 4/3. And that'll leave us with 40,750 and 53 hundredths. It's going to be equal to 3.14 times radius cubed. Divide both sides by 3.14. One, 2,977.8758, and we aren't going to round all the way to the end, so I want to make sure that I write everything. It's going to be equal to r cubed. The way you undo r cubed is to take the cubed root. So second, math, cubed root, and I'm going to just hit second and the minus button to put the answer in there. And that'll give us, r is going to be equal to 23, and it says round to the nearest hundredth, so 23.50, and our units are inches. So there's how, if you're given a volume, to solve for a radius for a sphere, We did a couple examples where given a radius or a diameter how to solve for the sphere, and we talked about the definition. If you have any questions for me, be sure to write them down and ask when you get to class.